My God! You just killed James Bond!
You should have who it was. Well, proves that no one's indestructible.
You don't just kill James Bond and sit around waiting for the cops to arrive. We gotta get out of here.
Okay, where have you hidden the diamonds?
Okay, come with me. I'll show you.
But what she doesn't know is James Bond can't ever die. Right, okay.
Diamonds are forever. They are all I need to please me. They can stimulate and tease me. They won't leave in the night. I've no fear that they might desert me.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here and welcome to my review of Diamonds Are Forever, the 7th James Bond film, and by the way, this is the only film prior to Licence to Kill to be not rated PG anymore. It's now been raised to a 12 in a recent re-rating by the BBFC due to some scenes that they felt would not fly at PG under 2012 guidelines, such as when Bond rips the bikini off the woman in the pre-title sequence and then wraps it round her neck and attempts to strangle her unless he gets information on Blofeld. So I think that was the key reason that they raised it to 12. They didn't think it would fly as a PG under 2012 guidelines, but I think there must have been other reasons as well. There's also a couple bit more bloody moments in this story, this film, compared to other installments pre-Licence to Kill. P.S. View to a Kill is rated 12 due to extras on its 2-disc DVD and Blu-ray, and Living Daylights, I'm not sure why that's a 12 on Blu-ray, it's probably due to extras. But as for the other films, this is the only one that's not rated PG anymore. It's rated 12 of the first 15 instalments. And it's mainly due to that one scene I just mentioned, but there's probably other reasons. There's a podcast on the Bond films, I think, and there's a podcast on Diamonds in itself. So do check those out on the BBFC website. Anyway, so the film itself, Diamonds Are Forever is probably the first misstep we've had in the series since Thunderball. I mean, I actually had a really good and fun time with this film. However, I think story-wise and execution-wise, it's not quite as up to scratch as some of the other installments besides Thunderball, because at least we didn't have any underwater battle sequences that dragged this film on, and the editing is good. I mean, it's actually really good. Really, really good. Some really great editing in this film. Thank God. Cinematography is also really good. Guy Hamilton from Goldfinger director is back. He's directing this film. He also directs the next two. And they've got Shirley Bassey back to do the title sequence, by the way. Title song, I should say. I haven't really been talking about the songs or the sequences that much, or much of the conventions. I've been mainly talking about these films as films in the Bond series, but not really talking about so much of the Bond elements. So I should probably bring those up a bit more. Title songs. I'll quickly do a quick run through. Bond theme, fantastic, iconic. From Russia With Love theme, love it. Goldfinger, love it. Thunderball, love it. You Only Live Twice, love it. On a Majesty's Secret Service theme, love it. Diamonds Are Forever, like it. Live and Let Die, adore it. Man with the Gun, like it. Nobody Does It Better, like it a lot. Moonraker, not so great, but it's okay. Few Eyes Only, like it. All Time High, like it. It's better instrumental though. View to Kill, love it. Living Daylights, adore it. Licence to Kill, love it. GoldenEye, love it. Tomorrow Never Dies, it's good. World's Not Enough, very good. Die Another Day, not that great. It's catchy though, it's alright. Could have been better though. You Know My Name, outstanding. Another Way to Die, fucking shit. Skyfall, much, much better. Adoring. And Writing on the Wall, yeah, it's good. It's alright. Could have been worse. Could have been better, though. And also, Never Say Never Again. Yeah, same as Writing on the Wall, I guess. And Casino Royale's theme for 67s, love that. And the song that the lyrical song, that's also really great. So there, I pretty much love most, if not all, almost all of the Bond title sequence songs and theme tunes. Also thrown From Usher of Love by Matt Monro, it's good. And We Have All the Time in the World, outstanding. So you've also got a couple of additional songs like those two and the Casino Royale 67 lyrical version, and also Look of Love is also a really great song as well. So yeah, I pretty much love most, if not all, almost all of the main themes and songs in the opening credits. I would say, in going in order from Dr. No to here, this is the first not loved one, but it's still a really good one. Title sequence, by the way, it's nice. It's better than the last films. And From Usher of Love's, I can't get into From Usher of Love's title sequence. I know a lot of people love that, but I can't quite get into it. And it's also better than Goldfinger's, maybe Thunderbolts. The only two I think title sequences are better than this one are probably Dr. No and... yeah, Dr. No and Fiona Twice. Oh, Fiona Twice, you're getting better every day. I love it. Speaking of Fiona Twice, one thing this film does better than that is Sean Connery's performance. He is much better here. It's the 4 years break between Fiona Twice and this film, and the motivation of getting paid a huge sum to bring him back is obviously making him a bit more enthusiastic, and the fact he's he's probably having a little bit more fun this time round than Fiona Twice. He's probably motivating him to do a good performance. It's not quite as good as the first 4 films, at least certainly not From Usher or Goldfinger or Thunderball. It's just around the point of the fun Dr. No one, but with less enthusiasm, but it's more enthusiastic than Fiona Twice. I think he does a decent performance for this film. He does a really good performance, much better than Fiona Twice, and much better than George Lazenby's performance in the previous film, and maybe even better than Roger Moore's in the upcoming The Man with the Golden Gun and A View to a Kill. Maybe even better than Brosnan in Die Another Day. Possibly, I'll see where he gets that. I think the latter 3 Bonds were very consistent with their performances and how good they were. I would also argue that for Roger Moore for most of his era, and Connery for that, besides Fiona Twice, and maybe this one if pushed. If I had to do a top 10 best act performed and top 10 weakest performed and a 4 in between, maybe it should be top 12 best top 12 weakest performances. I think this one might fall into more of the top 12 weaker ones, whilst the other ones are contenders for the top 12 better ones. Or maybe not so much, apart from Fiona Twice and maybe Dr. No. But anyway, so yeah, Connery, much better in this film, as he's paid about, I think it was $1 million or $2 million to play Bond for one more film, which he then later gave to set up his charitable fund to help Scottish artists and the like, not just artists as in painters, but you could do that as well, but actors and singers and musicians. So at least he put the money to great use, so that's really cool. And he does seem to be having a good time with it, and he thought the script was actually pretty good. Well, he's obviously the biggest fan of this film. I wonder if he also likes the Las Vegas setting as well. Just wondering. So Connery does a one last great performance before he leaves the official series for good, although he would be back in an unofficial Bond's film where his performance is even worse than Twice, even if he puts a bit more enthusiasm into it. Well, maybe it's not as bad as Twice. I'll tell you when we get to the Never Say Never Again review whether it's better or worse than Twice, but it's definitely worse than the other films, including this one. So the plot of Diamonds Are Forever, I haven't told you it yet, is after eventually finding and killing Blofeld, or so he thinks, after the events of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Bond is then sent on to investigate a diamond smuggling investigation, and eventually meets up with Tiffany Case, played by Jill St. John, to try and recover the diamonds with aid from Felix Leiter, this time played by Norman Burton. This is the fourth actor to play Felix Leiter, and by Jesus, it won't be the last. No. Yeah, we'll get another one next film. Then he's going to be out of the franchise until Timothy Dalton comes along, and then we're going to get another one, and then One Will Never Die comes back, and then he's going to be out for the Brosnan era, and then he's going to be back as another actor in the first two Craig films. And I think Burton is one of, if not the weakest, official Felix Leiter. He's also in Never Say Never Again, but that's unofficial, and the only other time we see Felix between Live and Let Die and Living Daylights. But yeah, I think Norman Burton is my least favourite of the Felix Leiters, or certainly one of them at least. He's alright. I don't think he's bad, but I just don't think he's that good either. It's very, very different to what we saw with the previous three, previous three Felixes. Speaking of Blofeld, Charles Gray is from, he plays Henderson in You Only Live Twice, is now playing Ernst Stavro Blofeld in this film, and he's now using cloning and plastic surgery to clone, or not clone, but to make other people look like him, therefore creating clones, I suppose. Well, not actual clones, but people who look like him, so Bond doesn't know who he's actually killing. I expect the guy we see in the first time we see him is Blofeld 1, the main one. But then afterwards we then see his second, I think it was his second clone. I'm saying it's his second because he gets another one later on, and I don't think that one, if that one was second, then I don't think he would deserve as much respect as the first one. But Bond eventually kills a Blofeld, but it's not the Blofeld, and we discover this later on, that the Blofeld is actually behind all of the diamond smuggling stuff as part of his new plan to build this giant satellite, this big satellite thing, to blow up nuclear weapons in exchange for money. Yay. Might be Willard White, when they recover him, he fears that after Blofeld's threatens America, that he could be selling it could be a nuclear auction going to the highest bidder, possibly, if Blofeld is going to sell this to a country that gives him a lot of money, or he'll just blow it up or something. In the end, it's just left alone. Satellite's just left in space after the events of the film, so no one gets it in the end, which is probably for the best. The same can be said in Die Another Day. More on that one when we get to it. So, yeah, Blofeld is behind everything again. Well, it only makes sense, especially as this is going to have to try and wrap up the Blofeld Spectre story arc that, well, Spectre's been mentioned since the beginning, but this particular arc has been going since You Only Live Twice, maybe Thunderball at push. In the books, it was Thunderball. You took a film as a book gap with Spy Who Loved Me, and then came back with Majesties, and then with You Only Live Twice. Here, it's been altered to be the Spectre trilogy is now You Only Live Twice, Majesties, and Diamonds for the films, which is fine. Blofeld's plan doesn't sound as great as some of his other ones, though. It just sounds he's trying to hold the world ransom for lots of money, and maybe he'll give the satellites to whoever gives him the most, possibly, or he's just getting lots of money from everybody in order for them not being threatened. Yeah. He's got help from a scientist who wants world peace and wants to get rid of nuclear weapons, but I don't think that's his Blofeld's aim. It's actually quite strange. What is he actually up to? I'm not really completely sure. Oh well. I mean, it's more fun than the underwater sequences in Thunderball, so I'll let it pass this time. But only this time, Mr. Blofeld. Only this time. And so, eventually, Bond has to stop Blofeld. And by the way, there was another Blofeld. He tried killing that one, but it turned out to be a fake. Just like the one at the start. And also the one he killed before that, who was not yet Blofeld, but would have been if he had let him be, left him for a few days. Whoops. Oh well. He eventually does kill the real Blofeld. Or so he thinks. at the end of this film. That's because Blofeld was supposedly killed off at the end of this film, and so they stopped using his character for the rest of the films, and started afresh with Roger Moore when he came along. And although he was going to be used again in Spy Who Loved Me, but the deal with his use was coming to an end, so they couldn't, otherwise they'd get sued. And Blofeld made an uncredited cameo in For Your Eyes Only, where he's 100% killed off in the original series. In a pretty weak way to go. Talking about this again in For Your Eyes Only, and then once the filmmakers get the rights back to Blofeld and Spectre, then they're reintroduced in 2015's Spectre. Well, it's not as bad as For Your Eyes Only's exit, but I think the introduction could have been handled better in Spectre. For more thoughts on Spectre, please check out my review of the film on my main channel. As for the rest of the cast, Charles Gray does do a very good job as Blofeld. He might be my favourite after Donald Pleasance. Jill St. John is very good as Tiffany Case, who is a very tough girl to start off with, but then she gets a bit more typical weaker, or not weaker, but it becomes a bit of a klutz later on. She's a bit clumsy, and not completely confident or certain about everything. She's not quite as tough as we're supposed to lead her to be later on in the film. And there's plenty of times where she's going to try and hug herself in being afraid of people just fighting or getting hurt, and she's going to hug near a door frame and just cower there for a few times. Yay. Oh, and just remembered, Blofeld in drag. Silly and ridiculous. Yeah, and we thought Una Twice was getting a bit silly in some places. No, it's getting worse here. And the elephant pulling the slot machine and getting lots of money because it has 3 elephants. Trust me, it's going to get sillier from this point onwards. Every other film is going to be very silly, or have very silly things in it. Almost every film, up to A View to a Kill. I do like the fact that Q gets a bit more to do in this film. He has a conversation with Bond on the phone about the fingerprint things, and then he later comes over with the voice replacement thing, and he gets a nice scene with using a little device to get him all the money. This is just before the Blofeld drag scene. Plenty O'Toole, Plenty, played by Lana Ward, is a little unnecessary in terms of film. Well, apparently there was more scenes with her films, and some of them are on the this DVD and on the Ultimate Edition DVD and Blu-ray. Some of them haven't been recovered or at least released yet, so we can't see those, where she would have gone to Tiffany's house, tried on some wigs, and get killed by Winton Kidd whilst wearing her black wig and put into the pool, as we see her later on in the film. But the deleted scenes we do see are her and Bond having a drink, and her coming back up to Bond's hotel room after being thrown into the pool. So it's actually quite a shame. I think the character is almost unnecessary without these scenes included, and the ones that have yet to be released. Kind of unnecessary. I don't even think the character is that necessary, full stop. I think they could have done without her, and you wouldn't need to worry about anything. Nothing would change. The only thing that would change is that Winton Kidd wouldn't have gotten to Tiffany yet. They would have wouldn't have had a chance, whilst with Plenty, they mistake her for Tiffany. But if you took out Plenty full stop, then nothing changes apart from Winton Kidd don't think Tiffany, don't get to anywhere near Tiffany, or another attempt is made, but she still escapes it. And she and Bond's conversation by the pool is probably slightly different. They could confront each other somewhere, will still be there, but not have any mention or notification of Plenty. Don't even acknowledge her. If she's not there at all, then they don't need to acknowledge it. They could just have the conversation without it. And finally, the regular, as I mentioned, with Q, Moneypenny gets a nice little scene, although there's very little with her. And the fact that she asks Bond for a diamond in a ring, Moneypenny, you do know he just lost his wife at the end of the last film, didn't you? That's like the girl in Mission Impossible 4 asking Ethan Hunt if he likes her, even though she knows he's married, or trying to get with him despite knowing he's married or was married and had to go through some traumatizing stuff in the previous film. Something like that. It's not Moneypenny. You know his wife's dead. And M, Bernadette's good as always as M, and Lois Maxwell is Moneypenny. It's just that Moneypenny wanted to ring in a diamond in a ring, and I think it was too soon for that after Tracy's death. If this film had been a direct follow-up to Majesty's, it would have been even more offensive. But unfortunately, this film is not a direct follow-up to Majesty's Secret Service. It just continues the Blofeld stuff. And possibly the revenge stuff at the start. Unfortunately, it's not as dark or brutal or serious as later revenge stories like License to Kill, Quantum of Solace, parts of Die Another Day, and parts of maybe parts of Spectre. Actually, I don't know if that's a revenge story. That's a rogue story. Parts of Die Another Day, and possibly the next film, or parts of next film, Bond 25, or parts of it anyway. And even Spy Who Loved Me, when Anya finds out that Bond killed her lover, that's a bit more of a serious revenge mission without as much going after the person who killed their lover. But it's more serious than this one. I can believe it more, as little annoying as it is for me, but still. So yeah, I suppose that's about it for Diamonds Are Forever. It's a great, fun instalment, but it's not that great. I would have preferred a more revenge-esque story, but in all honesty, I don't think there's any other story besides The Only Twice that could have followed up Majesty's in that sense. So a completely different story with based on elements from the book would make sense. Man with the Golden Gun, I think, was scheduled to be the next film, and that would have been even better if they did Majesty's The Only Twice, Man with the Golden Gun. They could have done that, and that'd been great. They'd already done The Only Twice though, so if they did Golden Gun, it just felt like there was something missing in between. And next, so yeah. On the other hand, what we got with Golden Gun was probably even worse. So, yeah. But Diamonds, I think, was a pretty great way to wrap up this story, despite not having anything to time with the previous two, especially the last one, besides the pre-titles Revenge Mission. In fact, I think For Your Eyes Only wraps up the story even better, despite all the message about revenge later on in that film. But overall, Diamonds is still a very fun, entertaining film. It's mostly good, but there are quite a few problems with it. I have to mention the chase scenes. The car chase scenes in this film are pretty weak. There is a moon buggy chase scene, which is uninteresting, and no score for half of it, and then the other half has a pretty poor soundtrack. The other car chase is the one in Las Vegas, and it's pretty weak, just seeing police cars chasing Bond and Tiffany with no background music. It's just sirens all over the bloody place, until the last one is just after Bond, and you get the soundtrack with the incredible but continuity errored stunt, which is the car going on its side and then coming out the other side, on the car's side, coming out from one end of the alley to the other, and the police don't. Continuity error explains there is it goes on one side, but then on the other, when it comes out the other end, it comes out the other side, and they had to put a little flip to explain it. So that's because they had to retake the other end, because there were lots of crowds when they did the first shot of coming out the right side, right way up, and lots of crowds were in the way. And apparently the American stunt team couldn't do the retakes right, so they had to get a French team in, and they did it the wrong way round, and they just had to put this little extra bit in to work it into continuity, which probably wouldn't work. If it was filmed today, then maybe we could have digitally removed everybody from the scene, or there could have been more retakes. But it was a very difficult bit to do, so I can see where they're coming from. I can forgive them a little bit, especially with that little bit in the middle that they threw in to fix it up a little bit. But it's still a very noticeable continuity error. But one thing I did find fun was Bond in the pipeline with the rat. Just as interesting as his conversation with the rat, the mouse in the in a scene in Spectre. It's very funny, and his line about walking his rat and losing his ways also a highlight. So, Diamonds Are Forever. To wrap up, I'm going to give this film a 7 out of 10.
I don't need love, for what good will love do me? Diamonds never lie to me, for when love's gone, they'll last.
It's good, it's enjoyable, but I don't love it. Not as much as the previous films, apart from Thunderball. I think it's decent, I think it's fun. It's quite silly in places, and I would have preferred a more direct follow-up to Majesty's Secret Service. Maybe something a bit more serious, and something a bit more relatable. Maybe if George Lazenby was in the role, then that would have been the case. But as Connery's back, things have shifted gears. And they'll be shifting gears again when Roger Moore takes over next time round. So we've got this instead of something like License to Kill, or a better version of Quantum of Solace, because Quantum of Solace was shit. Maybe next year's film will be the better version of Quantum of Solace, or the Diamonds Are Forever that we didn't get. We'll see. But yeah, that's it from Diamonds Are Forever, and it's alright. I mean, it could be worse. There's going to be worse and sillier installments down the line, and even some of the ones that try and be serious, there's going to be serious. There's going to be either going to turn out sillier, or there's going to have some silly moments in it. So Die Another Day, for example, it does quite a few serious stuff, but it also goes super silly in other places. And Fiorentoni is a very serious film, but it has one or two silly moments, like the ending. But at the same time, there are super, super silly stuff. There's films like Moonraker coming up. So, yeah, we're in for a mixed bag of silly and not so silly stuff in the next couple of films. The next film on the however, is one of the ones that tries not to be silly. It tries to be a typical Bond adventure that also just so happens to introduce a new actor playing Bond, but doesn't try to make a big deal about it like Majesty's does. And that film is, of course, Live and Let Die, the first film to feature Roger Moore as James Bond, R.I.P. So, next Bond film we'll be looking at will be Live and Let Die. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Diamonds are forever, forever, forever. Diamonds are forever, 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 forever.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel.
You mean? And as far...
My God! You just killed James Bond! You don't just kill James Bond and wait for the cop... Sorry. You don't kill James Bond and just sit around waiting for the cops to arrive. We gotta get out of here. Okay, come with me. That was awful, I'm sorry. You don't just sit... can we start again with Tiffany? You don't just sit around waiting... Fuck. Is that who it was? Well, it proves that not everybody's indestructible. Is that who it was? Well, it proves that no one's indestructible. Is that who it was? Well, it proves that no one's indestructible. Yes. Is that who it was? Yes. Is that who it was? Well, it proves that not everyone's indestructible. Fuck. It's gonna get worse. Yes. Well. Is that who it was? Well, it proves that not everyone is shit. Yes, James Bond. James Bond. Is that who it was? Well, it proves that not everyone's indestructible. Is that the right line? No one's indestructible. Okay, where are the diamonds? What she doesn't know is James Bond can't ever die. Coming! I'll be right there!